Breaking tonight, a seismic shift along the world's longest undefended border. For decades, the economic partnership between the United States and Canada seemed unbreakable. Tonight, that certainty is gone. Canadian officials are signaling the end of deep, unquestioned economic integration with the U.S. Ottawa is quietly drafting a declaration of economic independence. The implications are profound, not just for Canadians, but for Americans and the global trade order. This isn't about a single dispute. It's a fundamental unwinding of a relationship that defined North America since redefining. Canadian leaders now openly discuss a future where the U.S. is no longer the default economic partner. They're preparing for a world of trade blocs, protectionism, and fierce competition. The message, the globalized world America built, is fractured, and Canada isn't waiting for it to be fixed. Leaders are warning citizens to brace for slower income growth and lower living standards. A G7 nation is telling its people, the easy prosperity of the past is over. The reliable access to the U.S. market that fueled Canada's growth can no longer be taken for granted. This is a story of two nations, once in lockstep, now charting divergent paths. For Canada, this is a moment of reckoning, a forced adaptation to a world where being America's best friend is no longer enough. To grasp the gravity of this moment, you need the history. The U.S.-Canada economic relationship is among the world's most intertwined. For generations, industries like auto manufacturing relied on seamless cross-border supply chains. Landmark agreements, like the Auto Pact and NAFTA, erased barriers and created a continental marketplace. For Canada, access to the vast U.S. market was everything, underpinning its high standard of living. Every day, over $2 billion in goods and services cross the border. The U.S. accounts for about 75% of Canada's exports. Entire industries were built on the assumption of open access to American consumers. This deep dependency was once a strength, but now Ottawa sees it as a vulnerability. The border often felt like a formality. Families and workers moved freely. But that world is ending. Canadian policymakers now see the need to re-engineer the relationship. What was unthinkable a decade ago is now official policy. The unbreakable bond is being tested, and Canada is preparing for the possibility it might break. The first tremors came not from politicians, but from the Bank of Canada. Senior Deputy Governor Carolyn Rogers warned of a break-the-glass moment for the Canadian economy. Canada's long-standing productivity problem has become an emergency. The country faces stagnant growth and declining living standards. For decades, prosperity was propped up by rising housing prices and easy U.S. market access. But the real engine, productivity, has stalled. Canadian businesses invest less in technology and research than their U.S. counterparts. The central bank's message, without radical change, Canadians will get poorer. The era of simply exporting to a welcoming U.S. market is over. In a world of tariffs and trade barriers, Canada's lack of competitiveness is exposed. The Bank of Canada's blunt warnings gave government the justification for a dramatic policy pivot. The old economic model is broken. Relying on the U.S. is no longer viable. The alarm bells are ringing from the most credible source imaginable. After the central bank's warning, the Canadian government delivered its verdict. Senior officials, including the Prime Minister and Finance Minister, declared the post-war global trading order permanently over. The U.S.-led system that enabled decades of prosperity is, in their view, finished. This is a profound break from decades of Canadian policy. Leaders point to the rise of China, renewed great power competition, and, most critically, America's inward turn. U.S. protectionism is now seen as a bipartisan consensus, not a temporary phase. The U.S. is no longer the predictable anchor of the rules-based system. It's now a disruptive force. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland says the economic logic of the past 50 years no longer holds. In this new reality, economic policy is national security policy. Canada must adapt to a world where its largest trading partner can impose punitive measures at any moment. Why this dramatic pivot now? The reasons are piling up. The main driver escalating: U.S. protectionism. Steel and aluminum tariffs were just the start. Now massive U.S. subsidies threaten Canada's auto and manufacturing sectors. Ottawa sees the U.S. actively reshoring jobs, even at Canada's expense. The unpredictability of U.S. politics is another factor. Trade policy can shift overnight. The constant threat of tariffs and the renegotiation of NAFTA have taken their toll. Ottawa has concluded it can't base its future on Washington's political whims. Globally, the World Trade Organization is paralyzed, and trade blocs are rising. The world is breaking into economic fortresses, and Canada must defend its own walls. This is person ser on not anti-American. It's pro-Canadian realism in a hostile environment. The era of quiet hope is over. Urgent action is now required. Canada isn't standing still. It's pursuing a multi-pronged strategy to reduce U.S. dependence. The first pillar, aggressive trade diversification, especially with Asia and Europe. Existing deals like the CPTPP and CETA are now essential lifelines. Canada is building a portfolio of trading partners to avoid being crippled by U.S. shocks. The second pillar, building domestic industry and protecting sovereignty. The government is embracing industrial policy, subsidies, tax credits, and strategic investments in key sectors. This includes critical minerals, AI, EV batteries, and life sciences. The goal ensure high-value industries are built in Canada, securing jobs and supply chains. Canada is tightening rules on foreign investment to protect sensitive technology and infrastructure. Economic and security interests are now inseparable. This is Canada's version of economic patriotism, being strategic about partnerships and controlling its own destiny. The contrast between Canada and the US could not be more stark. In the US, the message is one of strength and optimism, job growth, innovation, and resilience. Pain points are framed as temporary on the path to renewed greatness. In Canada, the tone is sober realism. Leaders warn of slower growth and tough competition. This isn't despair, but honesty. Citizens are treated as adults who can handle hard truths. Canada's candor may signal a new role on the world stage. By declaring the old order dead, Canada positions itself as a leader among pro-trade middle-power nations. Countries like Australia, Japan, and EU members may see Canada as a partner for new coalitions. Canada's realism could rally a new bloc dedicated to preserving open trade. This decoupling is about preparation, not isolation. Canada isn't building a wall, it's retrofitting for a hurricane. The deep ties with the US won't vanish overnight, but the assumption of a shared future is being dismantled. What rises from the ashes, and Canada's role in shaping it, remains one of the most compelling stories of our time.